G'day. My name's Matty C. I'm from the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, and I'm here for the Fantasy Football Network every week of the fantasy football season to give you the best news and the best information around how to play your Jacksonville Jaguars in fantasy football this year. Now, going to be a bit wild, taken from an Aussie. Uniquely positioned here though, 20 seasons of Jacksonville Jaguars fandom, 15 seasons of fantasy, and I am pumped for 2022. Now, we know a little bit about the Jags because we saw them last year with Trevor Lawrence at the helm, but it's a different world now because they lost a coach midway through the season. And look, I think with a whole off-season with Doug Peterson, I think this is going to be good for Trevor Lawrence. And I've got some new news about him that I think will turn a few heads in fantasy. So his season last year, not terrific. 17 interceptions, yikes. 12 touchdowns, yikes. I think all that's on the improve, and there's no better way to kick it off than with this gift from God playing the Washington Commanders this week in week 1. Last year, they were the 24th graded defense in secondary by PFF, and it just means that this year, okay, they played a little better as the season wore on last year, but I think this is a great place for Trevor Lawrence to get his confidence for this year. Expect him to throw a lot, but you know what? No one talks about this. He ran for about 20 to 25 yards a game last year on between 4 and 5 carries a game. No one talks about it. He had a couple of sneaky touchdowns too, so keep your eye out for that. Let's move on to running backs, and there's only one, right? So James Robinson, still not really back from his Achilles, and he's not going to see a lot of action at all in these first couple of weeks. It is Travis Etienne with an E, a T, and an N. Nobody else, right? He'll get spelled occasionally. He's going to get all the work. And by all the work, I mean expect him to have 20 plus touches every week. He'll have 3 or 4 targets in there, maybe more, depending on the game scripts. But if things go well, and I expect them to go well on this week 1, even against the Commanders, in their first game as a team called the Commanders, I still expect the Jags to actually really take it to them and play their game the way that they planned it out. I'm really expecting this to go well for them, and they're going to be able to play on their terms. So I think this means that Etienne's going to be running the ball into the fourth quarter and things will be looking good for him. The other thing I think that's good to expect out of this is that he is somebody who's used to that. He had the totally lost rookie season and nobody remembers anything that happened before that. We're expecting him to have a great year last year and see the ball early, see the ball often, score a bunch of touchdowns and run. He's going to do that. He's going to do it. And early on, you can expect him to do it even more while he doesn't really have anybody else to back him up. All right, we're going to move on to some wide receivers, and we've got 2 of them. Only 2 who I think are worthwhile talking about in 10-team fantasy. Christian Kirk, and it's only worth talking about him because while he's ranked this week between 35 and 46, it means that, at best, he's going to be your flex starter in a position where maybe you drafted really heavy at running back early and you kind of got left behind on receivers. Or you've got a guy like Allen Robinson who sat out on Thursday Night Football, a guy like DeAndre Hopkins who you know is going to sit out for 5 or 6 weeks. Some situation like that, maybe a Michael Thomas or Robert Woods who you're a bit nervous about what they're going to produce. So I say in that position, start your Christian Kirk shares. The other player, it's not for this week. It's Marvin Jones, but it's not for this week, all right? He is ranked anywhere between 61 and 76 on most of the major ranking sites out there, and I agree, but it doesn't mean I don't think he's going to score more fantasy points. What it means is I think it would be a nervous start to put him out there ahead of anybody else. If he gets more targets and more points, I'm not going to be surprised. I actually think there is a world where this has been misplaced and Marvin Jones is still the one there. We'll have to wait and see, but that's kind of a bold call from your boy Matty C down here. I'm going to go back and summarise now that there is no tight end to talk about here. Dan Arnold, man, if he is in anyone's top 25 tight ends for this week, I'll be surprised. So no action at tight end. Let's summarise before I wrap this up. I've got Trevor Lawrence. He's only a start in the deepest of leagues, or he's an absolutely rock solid quarterback 2 in a 2-quarterback league or a super flex league. So, pick your poison when you're going to play him in a league like that where it's a super flex. You might not be able to start him every single time. You're going to have to see, but, just keep him in mind. You've got Travis Etienne, you've got to start him. You've got to start him, and I think he is a rock-solid running back 2 in any 10-team league this week. But I also think that even in a deeper league, I've got him as a flex in a deeper league because I went bang, 3 running backs. So he's a flex in a 16-team league for me, but only because I went crazy on it early. He is going to be someone who I think at minimum you'll be able to get flex value out of every single week, especially until Robinson's back. And then with wide receivers, while I think there's a world where Marvin Jones outproduces in these early few weeks and reestablishes the connection about how that depth chart is set in terms of fantasy points, I think you would be mad to start him over Christian Kirk if you had that decision on your books this week. and it's tough to imagine a situation where you would start Marvin Jones at all. Christian Kirk, really only a start in a flex if you've got another wide receiver consideration, or you went really deep on wide receiver in your draft and left all those early positions to strengthen other parts of your roster. All right, that's it. I'm Matty C, and on behalf of the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, which is my home show, and for the Fantasy Football Network, I'm going to catch you guys next week, but have a really great week one out there. Go get the W, and come on Duval!